The story begins with a name spoken in whispers, a name tied to judgment, power, and a decision that shook the world. Pontius Pilate. History remembers him as a Roman governor. But medieval Europe saw something darker. They believed Pilate carried a curse that roamed across kingdoms, mountains, lakes, and villages for more than 1,000 years. Imagine a ruler who tried to wash his hands of the past, only to find that water cannot lift the weight of a choice. This is where the story begins. Not in Rome, not in the courts of empire, but in the quiet fear of ordinary people who believed that a man who condemned the innocent could never rest. When Pilate disappears from the written record, the story does not end. It mutates. It spreads. It grows teeth. It becomes one of the most powerful dark legends in Europe's memory. Every century adds a new shadow. Every region claims a piece of him. Some say his fate was madness. Others say exile. Others say death far from home. But the people of medieval Europe believed one truth. Pilate's soul could not find peace. His body could not find a resting place. And his spirit wandered like a wound across the land. There are figures in history whose names are not merely written on parchment, but carved into the very stone of the occult landscape. We all know the story of Judas, but his legend is simple: betrayal for silver. Our story today is about a deeper, darker stain, the man who chose fear over justice, and whose name became a curse upon European soil for 1,000 years. We speak of Pontius Pilate. He wasn't a saint or a demon, just a Roman governor, the fifth prefect of the restless, volatile province of Judea, a man of cold ambition, ruling by fear and balancing the razor's edge between the Roman emperor's wrath and the furious religious dissent of the people he governed. His hands were steeped in the common blood of governance, but the day he stepped onto the stone pavement of the Lithostrotos, he was about to make a decision that would mark him and the continent of Europe forever. Pilate stood between two forces: the relentless, crushing weight of Roman law and the terrifying, unpredictable fury of a mob demanding the crucifixion of a man named Jesus. His historical crime wasn't pure malice. It was cowardice. It was a political calculation. It was the moment a leader chose to appease the crowd, sacrificing a moral truth to protect his own position. And to the medieval mind, that moment of political self-preservation was the true genesis of the curse. He washed his hands. A simple gesture, but one that medieval artists and monks turned into the ultimate act of corrupted authority. It wasn't an absolution. It was a stamp of eternal guilt. After that moment, the man Pontius Pilate ceased to be a simple Roman governor. He became something far more terrifying, a medieval symbol of cursed authority. His name began to move across Europe not on official decrees, but like a shadow, whispered by artists, feared by rulers, and used as a terrifying warning by every storyteller and wandering monk. The dark legends tell us Pilate could not find peace. How could he? He was branded by the most profound guilt imaginable. The historical record suggests he was recalled to Rome soon after the trial, disgraced. But occult history rarely cares for simple facts. It cares for consequence, and the consequences for Pilate were eternal. Legends claim he was immediately haunted, not by a ghost, but by his own restless soul, unable to find quiet in the vast Roman Empire. Some tales say his wife, Claudia Procula, a woman who had tried to warn him of the dreamer's fate, watched him descend into madness. Others claim it was not madness, but a possession, the demon of political expediency claiming the soul it was promised. The most potent rumors focused on his inevitable death. In a world defined by the Christian narrative, there could be no simple end for Pilate. The most common story, the one that truly cemented his place in the geography of fear, stated that Pilate, consumed by guilt and the dark whisper of the mob he'd placated, finally took his own life. But even suicide could not grant him rest. The medieval chroniclers claim his body was dragged and dumped into the river Tiber in Rome, But the waters themselves, recognizing the profane burden, rejected him. Great storms, torrents of rain, and terrible whirlpools erupted, forcing his body to be removed. They tried burying him in Vienne, France, but the land itself recoiled. The earth convulsed, and terrifying gales tore through the city, which the superstitious townspeople immediately blamed on the corpse's unholy presence. This is the key transition. Pilate was no longer a sinner. He was a talisman of disaster. His physical remains became a blight, a source of environmental and spiritual chaos. This gave medieval Europe its perfect dark symbol of a ruler who abused power. His very flesh was so poisoned by the failure of judgment that it corrupted the land around it. It's in the high peaks of Switzerland that this terrifying legend reached its climax. In the mountain range of the Swiss Alps stands Mount Pilatus, a landmark named, according to lore, for this cursed governor. The tales claim his remains were finally cast into a small, dark lake high on the mountain's summit. This lake became a fearsome landmark. Local farmers believed that disturbing the dark, still waters of the Pilatussi, even by throwing a single stone, would instantly unleash a violent demonic hailstorm upon the valley below. When storms did hit, when crops failed, when avalanches struck, villagers didn't blame the weather. They blamed Pilate's restless spirit. His curse was woven into the very fabric of nature. These stories weren't just folklore. They were a profound psychological tool. In some regions, people said Pilate didn't just throw himself into a lake. They said demons dragged him through the sky, his screams carried on the wind, a horrifying spectacle to warn corrupted leaders of their ultimate fate. Other folktales claim his ghost reappeared, sometimes dressed in Roman regalia, to warn against corrupted leadership, or to point toward treasure hidden with the gold he had seized during his governorship. He became the haunted Roman general, forever chained to the power he once wielded. The Church, needing simple, dramatic lessons for its illiterate congregation, eagerly propagated the Pilate curse. He served as the living, or rather, the undead, testament to the idea that no political power, no matter how absolute, could escape ultimate moral judgment. Every time his name was mentioned in the Creed, it was a simultaneous condemnation and a warning. Rulers and kings heard the whispers too. They saw the legend of Pilate and understood the potent message. Your power is temporary, but the judgment you pass can curse your soul and your very remains for centuries. The Pilate curse was a chilling reminder that the abuse of authority carried consequences that transcended the throne and extended into eternity. And for the common people, Pilate explained the unexplainable. Why did the storm come? Because Pilate's body moved in the lake. Why did the plague spread? Perhaps the soil was defiled by his restless, cursed presence. His story was a terrifying, supernatural way to rationalize the chaos of medieval Europe. And that is where the mystery lies. Because for a man whose actions are fixed in historical record, his end is 1,000 shifting shadows. No one knows where Pontius Pilate was actually buried. Dozens of sites across Europe, from remote Scottish mountains to Italian fortresses, all claim his cursed remains were hidden, tossed, or dragged away. Each of these places, each dark lake, each treacherous mountain pass, is tied to local disasters, strange phenomena, or sudden death. They are all bound by the belief that the guilt of one man, the tragic failure of a single judgment, was powerful enough to poison the earth itself. The shadow of Pilate is not merely a memory. It is a restless presence that lingers in the landscape of Europe. He remains the eternal governor, judged by history, tormented by his decision, and forever denied the simple peace of the grave. His curse reminds us that when you choose power over truth, the price you pay may not be silver, but an endless, terrifying judgment. If this story awakened something inside you, stay with us. Like, share, and subscribe for more lost histories of our world, here on Occult Europe, where the past speaks again.